Good morning. Welcome to Mantra 108, where we're working our way through 21 days of the Purna mantra. So we are on day number 18. 3 more days to go after today, and we'll have completed our 21 days. So, I wanted to talk to you just a bit about the number 108. Why do we have 108 beads in our mala? And why do we sometimes in our yoga practices do 108 sun salutations? Well, this number 108 has sacred significance, and it also appears in literature, it appears in science, it appears in medicine. Haribol, good morning. And so I wanted to talk to you just a little bit about 108. There are a lot of things that we could say about this number 108, but I've just chosen a few that I thought were interesting little tidbits. So the number 108 is considered to be a sacred number in many of the dharmic religions. And in Hinduism, as an example, you see many references to this number 108. Shiva had 108 attendants. Krishna, 108 gopis. Gopis are followers, gopis of Krishna. And there are 108 temples of Vishnu in India. Sacred temples, special temples. In Buddhism, the words of Buddha are written in 108 volumes. And Zen priests wear prayer beads around their wrists rather than around their necks. So they wear them around their wrists, and there are 108 beads in their prayer beads. In Japan, so this was interesting to me, in Japan at the end of the year, in many of the temples, there is a bell that is chimed, and this bell is chimed 108 times to mark the ending of one year and to welcome in the new year. In Gnostic teachings, a person has 108 lifetimes to eliminate ego, all of the egos, and to transcend the material world. And then in literature, there are a lot of references to 108. I'll tell you a couple of them. In Homer's Odyssey, Penelope had 108 suitors. And there's a classic piece of Chinese literature called Water Margin. Good morning, Sylvia. Water Margin, Outlaws of the Marsh. And in this classic, there are 108 outlaws. And in Poe, Edgar Allan Poe's poem, The Raven, there are 108 verses. In science, the number 108 is significant. This is one that's really cool. The distance from the Earth to the sun is the diameter of the sun times 108. So that's pretty cool. Actually, it's 107 point da 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 da, you know, so it's just a shade short of 108, but close enough to call it 108. 108 is the temperature, the Fahrenheit temperature that the body can raise to, at which point vital organs begin to be destroyed from overheating, begin to fail from overheating. So 108 is that marking point. And there's a chemical element, actually it's a synthetic chemical element called hassium. And hassium is highly radioactive, and it's the most stable of all the isotopes, very stable isotope. The atomic number of hassium is 108. And this is one of my favorite pieces of trivia about this number 108. In India, when there is an emergency, well, first of all, here in our country, when we have an emergency, we pick up the phone and we dial 911. In India, they pick up the phone and they dial 108. That's their, boy, do I need assistance number. And then in Ayurveda, Ayurveda is the Indian lineage of ancient medicine. And in Ayurveda, there are 108 marma points. And marma points are like acupressure points in Chinese medicine. So all kinds of significance. There are astrological significances, just a lot of things that tie the number 108 to, good morning Karen, to a sacred practice. And of course, we know that there are 108 beads in our mala. So we are chanting, when we chant our mala, we're chanting, good morning Douglas, we're chanting for the sacredness of the number 108, as well as the sacredness of the actual mantra that we're chanting. So just wanted to give you that little piece of, or those little pieces of trivia, because I know a lot of people wonder why 108? Why do we have to chant 108 times? So those are some of the reasons. And I wanted to do one more thing before we get started in our practice this morning, and that is to read a poem from Rumi. Once again, this little sweet little Rumi book called Birdsong. Most of the poems that you'll read, well, many of the poems that you'll read by Rumi are quite lengthy, you know, with a few paragraphs or even many pages. He was, of course, prolific and is today, even now, the most popular poet in the world. Globally, he's the most popular poet and probably has been for years and years and years. But in this little book, Birdsong, there are 53 short little poems. So you can just pick up any page and turn to it and read. And so I thought, yeah, I'd like to read a Rumi poem to you this morning. And I turned to this page and found the perfect one. And so this, I think, speaks to our spiritual practice, moving through our spiritual practice so that we can find our way back to God, back to the divinity that lives in us, back to that calm center, back to that place where we are pure bliss consciousness. But we make all these stops along the way, all these stops with our chitta, our mind, heart, field of consciousness that kind of gets in the way, chattering mind, roiling emotions tend to get in our way. So I think this little poem speaks perfectly to this. Rumi says, gamble everything for love. If you're a true human being, If not, leave this gathering. Half-heartedness doesn't reach into majesty. You set out to find God, but then you keep stopping for long periods at mean-spirited roadhouses. So, I think that speaks perfectly to the distractions that we find in living our human lives. The distractions to really connecting and staying connected with love, with the divine. The divine is love. So I leave you with that and we'll get started. I actually remembered to bring it up today, and I also actually had the right connection so that it got, so we're good to go. Oh, before we get started, I also want to mention one thing to you. I want to invite you all to come and join me tonight, right here on this channel for Thursday Night Bhakti. For any of you who don't know, I do a Thursday night devotional practice. It's only 30 minutes and we dive into Bhakti. Bhakti is a devotional practice. It's a sacred practice. And so tonight is going to be special because we're going to chant the Sanskrit alphabet together. I'm going to teach you very quickly, teach you the alphabet, teach you the pronunciations, and then we're going to chant that together. But it's going to be chanted backwards because the very end of the alphabet gets into the consonants and the sibilants and some special letters that are more earthly, more manifest reality. And the vowels, which typically are at the first of the alphabet, the vowels get into divine consciousness, pure bliss consciousness, Ananda Shakti. So we're chanting from the bottom of the alphabet to the top of the alphabet so that we can go from the physical, earthly experience, the finite experience, the experience of the manifest world, up to the experience of the divine in our chanting. So if you're free tonight at 7:30, come join me for that little half an hour and we'll chant the alphabet together. So for now, let's go ahead and open the jaw just a wee bit. Preparing the mouth, preparing the face for our chanting. And now that we're toward the end of our 21 days, and if you've been practicing with me, chanting with me every day, you probably don't need this so much. But if anybody is joining us newly or hasn't been practicing much, these are still good exercises to do, to open the muscles of the face, open the muscles of the throat, to prepare us for these words that our mouth is not used to. A little roll of the neck. And we'll begin. Close your eyes and tune into your breath. Breathe fully so that the air that you're breathing comes into all of the parts of your lungs, the top, the bottom, the sides, the back. We want to engage every part of our lungs during this virus experience so that we keep our lungs really healthy. So go ahead and take this full circumference breath, bringing that oxygen into all of the places of your lungs. And as you're breathing, begin to soften your skin. Begin to soften your muscles. Begin to soften the citta, the heart, mind, field of experience. And then we begin. Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇam Idaṁ Vaśiṣyate. Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya. Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Pūrṇam Evā Pūrṇam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya. Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Pūrṇam Evā Pūrṇam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya. Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Pūrṇam Evā Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya. Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. And this brings us to the end of our practice this morning. Tomorrow we're on day number 19. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for your steady practice. Your chitta thanks you for your steady practice. Well, it finished for me. So if you're still here, have a wonderful day. Love you, love you, love you.